Today's cool fact of the day is that researchers have discovered a citrus-scented pheromone in male goat hair that is a primary stimulator of the female goat's ovulation and reproductive system. Specifically, it's called 4-ethyl octanol, which turns into that well-known chemical responsible for goaty smells. According to this new research, since goats and humans have many similarities, there could be a correlation to male pheromone smells as well. Because of that, the new bulletproof Oh Dig Goat Hair should be on shelves soon. Today's guest is Dr. Sarah Gottfried, MD, who has been on the show before. And Dr. Sarah is a friend, and she's also a Harvard-educated physician, a speaker, a yoga teacher, a wife, a mom, and author of the New York Times best-selling book, The Hormone Cure. She's also a board-certified gynecologist and has a new online program called Mission Ignition, The Energy Cure. And I love talking with her because she's like a girl biohacker. Dr. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Dave. Hi, everybody.
I've invited you on today specifically because you've got a new book coming out, and anytime, one of my friends and fellow biohackers is launching a new book, it's always cool to talk about it because you've spent a lot of time writing and doing research about something that hasn't been written about before. At least that's what we hope. So tell me about the new book. What's in it? What's new?
Yeah, well, so this is the new book. I'm going to show it for those who are watching the video. It's The Hormone Cure. I added almost 50 pages of new content, on top of the hardcover that I released last year. And I just took the top questions that women were asking me about their hormones. What do I do preconception? Actually, I send them to your book for that one, but I've got a
Thank
quick
you.
protocol for them. And what do I do postpartum? What do I do during pregnancy? What do I do if I'm a breast cancer survivor? What do I do if nothing I try after the age of 35, 40 works in terms of getting lean, which I hope we'll talk about today? What do I do if I'm in menopause? Do the same protocols apply? So that's the idea. I took the top questions, and women deserve to have their questions answered. So I've answered them with this new book.
So, Sarah, you are on sabbatical from seeing patients because after what you just said, you probably just generated like 1,000 people wanted to see you. I would like to offer, if you're interested in someone who knows a thing or two about hormones, particularly around pregnancy, my wife, Dr. Lana at betterbabybook.com, is taking patients. So people are available. You guys have slightly different sets of expertise, but they are definitely related. So that's available. But I think people should go to your website because, well, your website's awesome and your book is awesome. So.
Thank you, sir.
Now, you've got some other things in there. You've got breast cancer. You've got like a bunch of women-focused things. Is there an age range for like, women who should read this book?
Definitely. It's 18 to 108.
Oh, my 109-year-old great grandmother is really bummed right now.
Oh, no, no,
Okay.
no. Okay, so let me raise the upper limit.
I'm kidding.
No, the idea here is, oh my gosh, we've got to manage our hormones through the
Yes.
entire life cycle, whether you're male or female. And I've got lots of gems for the guys today too. It's so important to realize that your hormones drive what you're interested in. They're not the be all end all. They're, I don't want to be overly reductionistic, but it's really important to realize, oh my gosh, they are controlling so much in your body. Fat storage, how happy you are, how stressed out and crazy pants you are, your mood, depression. There's so much that's controlled by it.
If you are a guy and you're listening to this going, gee, maybe I should fast forward because this is going to be about like gynecology stuff. Understanding your partner's hormone cycles is kind of a primary skill for a guy because that way you can just be like, oh, this is like that week, and like I should like schedule my business trip for that week, or whatever else. But it just having a basic understanding there helps me understand with Lana like normal monthly fluctuations in behavior and attention and even intelligence. There's some
Totally.
interesting things around IQ and ovulation that come out. So I actually think it's worth it for guys in relationships to just understand a little bit about this because if you can tweak it and you can help tweak it, your life as a guy will be easier too, and your partner will be happier, which means you'll be happier and vice versa.
Such a good point. I think I've told you before that my husband is making an app for the guys where he thinks it's so important to be tracking your woman's menstrual cycle. And just as you described, okay, green light for going on a business trip because you're 1 week before a period? Or is ovulation, you might get some if you play your cards right. So
Yeah. Or you might
I,
want to run away so you don't accidentally have another baby, right?
yeah, exactly. Depends on how many kids you have. But
Right.
this is such an important point, and I think, guys are simpler in many ways when it comes to hormones. The conversation is still really rich and fun, but it's important to realize that women are complicated. We have, when you're cycling, you have a different level of estrogen, progesterone, testosterone on a daily basis. And so the more that you can leverage that, as you're describing, you're the ultimate leverager, Dave Asprey. And get that, be masterful about it, be skillful, have it work to your advantage. It's going to be a win-win for everybody.
I love how you're thinking about that. One of the things missing in the whole biohacking community, even in paleo, I've had a series of women on the show lately to talk about women and high fat diets in general, not just the bulletproof diet. And, it goes from one extreme where we have, Olympic winners who literally like shut down their cycle for 7 or 8 months using nutrition because like, oh, I know my cycle makes my performance fluctuate and I don't really care about fluctuating. I care about kicking ass, all the way to, how do I do the anti-aging thing after 40? And there needs to be more books written about this. A lot of the studies out there are specific to men. So intermittent fasting, I wrote a post, one we've talked about on email a while back about, hey, when women do intermittent fasting for longer periods of time, they lose their sleep, they get adrenal fatigue, but you add protein back in the morning and it's a different effect, or you add more carbs and it's a different effect. So I would love to see, even rat studies were like, oh, the girl mice are different than the man mice, although mice are not rats. Yeah, we all get that for people listening. Why don't women lose weight on a typical diet that works? I look great. My man boobs are a little small, but all right. So what's the deal here? Like what did you come up with in your book?
Yeah, this is the million-dollar question. I'm super curious about this because I similarly found in my practice, I've seen about 20,000 women, about 5,000 men in the past 20 years. And what I found, especially with the paleo revolution of the past 5 to 10 years, is that women don't fare as well, especially after a certain age, like
Yeah.
35 to 40. That's sort of the transition where hormones start to fall off a cliff. For women between 35 and 40, that's when progesterone drops. You start to run out of ripe eggs. You can't be soothed as well. You have growth hormone drop. And there's also an issue with for a lot of women, their thyroid starts to get wonky. They have issues with reverse T3, which I think is a key player when you go too low carb as a female of a certain age. So those are some of the issues that I see. And, why is this? I'm asking all of the thought leaders this very question because I'm not finding a great answer in the literature. But I can tell you from experience that I'm seeing something similar. For the women who go on paleo, there's even a study done by Terry Walls. She
Yeah.
put folks on the Walls protocol, and once women hit a BMI of 23, a body mass index of 23, they don't lose weight on paleo anymore. So it's curious to me. I think it has to do with a carb threshold that's particular to women of a certain age. And what I'd love to talk about with you, Dave, is a bit about, what, if you look at the low carb movement, like where is it not a good idea? Where is it potentially harmful or, might cause issues with sleeping or work against you as you try to heal adrenal dysregulation? So what do you think about that? Should we talk
Yeah.
about low carb?
Let's zoom in on it. And it's really important when we talk about low carb. It's just like a low fat or high protein or whatever else. High soy protein, especially hydrolyzed soy, is totally different than high egg, is totally different than high collagen. So just to talk about a protein or a fat or a carb, the difference between a low carb diet and a low sugar diet is you can have a high carb, low sugar diet. And so one of my goals in Bulletproof is to help people understand that it's too simplistic to say carbs, protein, fat. It's actually almost meaningless. It's slightly less meaningless than saying calories, which is just not a great way to measure nutrition. But even on top of those things, okay, now you got to the right kind of, okay, you're on collagen protein, but where did it come from and what are the di and tripeptide forms? Are you kidding me? Like you go to McDonald's and say, I'd like to order an order of side of dipeptides. You don't. But you want to understand what are the molecular and biological and gut biomechanisms of these things. And when you get down to that level, quality becomes the most important thing you look at after you get your macronutrient ratios right, maybe even before you look at other things. So when we talk about
Amen. I
okay,
just want to say
you're great.
amen right there. And you asked about intermittent fasting. I just
Yeah.
want to say I am loving your collagen, man.
Oh, thank you.
I'm having my bulletproof coffee with my MCT oil and my collagen in the morning, and I am so happy. I think you're onto something with that particular formula.
There, it I designed it using a whole bunch of different things, including a lot of serendipity and some luck and some biochemistry. But a new study just came out looking at something I've hypothesized for the past 2 years about what bulletproof coffee does to your butt biome, to your butt, your
To your
gut
what?
biome. Your butt biome has serious problems, Sarah. Uh,
My butt Guyam. Oh my gosh. I didn't even know.
I can't believe I said that on the air. All right, your
After
gut
that and the
biome.
goat pheromones, man, I'm ovulating over here.
I'm so twittering that. So, one of the things that's going on there is uh, a shifting of the bacteria in your gut because the phenols feed the phenol, which is basically the antioxidants in the coffee, at least one of the antioxidants. It feeds a kind of bacteria in your gut that thin people have more of and fat people have less of. When you look at what the brain octane oil does specifically is it puts a stress on the bacterial population. So you're like, wait a minute, this fat puts a stress on what's happening inside the gut. So all the bacteria are like, hey, I don't really like that. But then you feed the ones you want. So in very rapid order, you're basically suppressing fat people bacteria and you're increasing thin people bacteria by feeding the ones you wanted. So I don't know if it's soon enough to say coffee is a probiotic, but I
Mm.
can tell you with absolute certainty that phenols in foods, and there are phenols in lots of foods like blueberries and wine and coffee and chocolate, but phenols, and funny enough, on the Walls protocol, Terry's been a guest on the show a couple times. Terry Walls, who cured her MS using a high colored food diet. What do you think makes vegetables colorful? Sarah, it's phenols, right?
Right.
Okay, so we've got a lot of polyphenols in coffee and whatever else. So when you take brain octane and you mix it with your red bell peppers, when you mix it with your hot chocolate, when you mix it with whatever it is, you're basically feeding the good biome and you're maybe making life a little tougher on the other stuff in your gut. You still need those things. Those are lactobacilli. But if you're, you know, freebasing yogurt to try and change your gut biome, maybe that's not what you wanted to do. I can tell you yogurt and a lot of the so-called good bacteria, they cause brain fog in a substantial number of people, including women over 40 and under 40. And
Yes.
I've written about that, and I tested it just last week. I had 2 days of being a total zombie after I took like a very well-respected probiotic formula, one that worked great for a family member, by the way. So it's like, how do you know? Well, you have to be a biohacker and measure.
You have to measure, you have to, pay attention to this individual variation that we see person to person. I think that's such a crucial piece. And I love this idea. I wrote this down, feed the bacteria you want. It reminds me a bit of that line, love the one you're with. Like, I think
Yeah,
it's really important. That's like our new theme song, I think, Dave, for 2014 is we want to feed the bacteria that we want. That's
yeah.
that's like the next 10 years of medicine.
It seems like it. Do you cover resistant starch? I'm just not remembering. I have a copy of the Hormone Cure floating around here, but I read a lot. Do you talk about like basically the types of fiber that feed bacteria as well?
I don't talk a ton about the different types of fiber. I'd love to get into it now in the book, but I feel like fiber is the unsung hero of hormone balance, especially for the global experience that we're all having of estrogen dominance and estrogen pressure from 700 known xenoestrogens. I think, I think of the fiber as being the way that we really upgrade the liver. So that phase one detox where you're generating the garbage, and then the phase two detox where you're picking up the garbage collection. Fiber really helps you with that. I think it's so crucial that women get, around 35 to 40 grams a day, guys get 40 to 45 grams a day. But do you want to say something specific about fiber and maybe prebiotics?
Well, there's a bunch of different prebiotics you can take, and there are different types of fiber. And lately, the reason I was thinking about this is because the latest rage in a lot of the paleo discussions, in fact, when I had Mark from Marcus Daily Apple on, we talked about this a little bit, and he's sort of saying, well, I wish I'd paid more attention to resistant starch, which is one type of call it prebiotic. The problem is that different fibers irritate the gut differently. So taking, wheat bran, which is what I took as a kid, which didn't benefit me at all and probably caused more harm than good, is different than psyllium husk, which is also pretty rough on the gut, but is widely touted in herbalist and like raw circles, all the way to things like resistant cornstarch, which is a manufactured product that appears to work pretty well in some people, but not others. So it feels like that's part of the equation. But what do you talk about in the book? You're mentioning now some prebiotics, but what do you talk about specifically when women are trying to lose weight? Okay, so you know about this 23 BMI thing. What do you tell them to do then? Do they eat more fiber? Do they eat more starch? Do they eat more, well, I don't know, carrots? Like what's the magic food here?
Well, there's so how to answer this question. I mean, one strategy is to do some genetic testing and just see what some of your tendencies are, like with the PPARG gene, and what's happening with your dance with fat. Do you respond better to MUFAs? How do you respond to PUFAs? How do you respond to saturated fat? So I agree with you that there's this macronutrient conversation about carbs, protein, fat, and then there's also drilling it down much further, which I love that you do in your infographic for the Bulletproof Diet. So I would say, the piece that I've been really working with right now is the carbs, because I see so many women who are at a plateau. They're pushing their total percentage of calories, if you still calculate that, down to about 10-15% with their carbohydrates. And I just see such a backlash from it, from the body. And so I wanted to talk about that today. Like, why is it that women are hitting this plateau, especially over 35, 40? What's going on? And I've got a few theories. So I'm gonna
Ooh,
float this
do
by
share.
you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've got a little mnemonic. This is how I survived medical school. Adipus. My daughter's reading To Kill a Mockingbird, so it's kind of in honor of Atticus. So Adipus, Atapis.
my
So
my
bear with
4-year-old
me
will be
here.
laughing right now.
You like that? Okay, so these are the folks who really have to have some caution around pushing the carb envelope too low. So Adipus, A is athletes, T is
Mhm.
thyroid, P is three P's actually: preconception, pregnancy, and postpartum. We can go into more detail there. And the other A was adrenal dysregulation. So it's ATAPIS, athletes, thyroid, adrenal dysregulation, preconception, pregnancy, postpartum, insomnia, and then stress, like really high perceived stress. What do you think, Dave?
I'm not sure that I like the acronym. We need to play like Scrabble and rearrange it to something that sounds cooler than Adipus because I can't spell
Okay.
it. But no, I'm just kind of joking. Uh, those are the cases when I'm working with coaching clients for performance where I'm like, well, here's a simple experiment. Have more carbs. But it's not just more carbs because that means more like apple turnovers, like some of these people who are talking about, eat carbs like like an orangutan or something. What we're talking about here is we're talking about eating carbs that don't contain a lot of the carb defense systems that plants put in place to keep from getting eaten. So I recommend white rice and sweet potatoes. And if you're not one of those people who has problems with normal potatoes, maybe the inside of a normal potato, but not the skin. And for the most part, sticking with clean forms of starch versus, say, a ton of fructose is is a good idea. And then you play with it, but don't eat it for breakfast. Um, who was it who was just on the show who said breakfast is the most important meal of the day to not screw up? But if you're having sugar and carbs in the morning, it's probably not going to benefit you. So if you're going to do it, have it at dinner or maybe in the afternoon. But to start out the day, especially with fructose or even with a lot of starch, it just sets you up for that hypoglycemic thing. And if you're looking at your body weight, it's okay to not have carbs in the morning. Like you're not going to die. And I think that can build resilience even in people on the adipose thing. But then nighttime comes and you're like, okay, like I'm gonna have me some rice, like it's okay. You can just kind of go for the starch and enjoy it. And even if you get a little bit of a blood sugar crash, you'll be asleep anyway. And you can use the honey sleep trick that I talk about on the Bulletproof site about taking maybe a couple teaspoons, maybe a tablespoon of raw honey, long after meal, but right before bed to get your blood glucose up and stable for 6 or 8 hours. So if you find you wake up at night with low blood sugar, then you need to hack that. And sometimes collagen before sleep does it, and sometimes you can do it with the honey trick. I don't know that you want to mix the two though.
Well, I love that. And I think let's back up a step because I want to talk a bit about like how to measure your response to these things, especially if you don't want to, spend a grand or more on some genetic testing.
Right.
So for me in this particular matrix of my female body, if I have white rice or the inside of a potato, my blood sugar is going to be like 130 fasting in the morning. So I just don't respond
Wow.
well to that.
Wow.
I'm gonna have to try your collagen before I go to bed and just see what happens. But I
Yeah.
agree with you that you don't want to, march forward first thing in the morning toward the fructose. We know that our food has really changed over time. The food that my great grandmother had, an apple back in her day had a lot less fructose than an apple today. And so we want to be really careful. What I recommend for women who are trying to lose weight is to keep your fructose less than 20 grams a day. That's not very
Oh,
much.
you're at
That's
20. I'm at 25. Okay, so like,
You're 25. Okay.
yeah,
Well,
we totally agree on that sort of thing. Like too much fructose is just bad for you. What are the reasons that you believe it's bad? I mean, I have my theories, but let's see if they match.
yeah, well this is like, pure Gary Taubes, just like this idea that what happens is you're turning on the fat storage in your liver with fructose. And I think that we have been hammering our poor bodies with fructose for way too
Hmm.
long. And I think it definitely accounts for some of the, this epidemic that we've seen with the obesity problem in the US, that it's tripled in the past 50 years. Food, the exercise situation, the calories that we're eating, they don't account for the obesity epidemic. So we have to look beyond it. I think fructose is part of the story. I also think that endocrine disruptors are a major player when it comes to leptin resistance,
Yeah.
insulin resistance, these hormone resistances that we're seeing.
Well, let's talk some more about endocrine disruptors. You talk about top foods that hijack any woman's hormones. Are those foods containing endocrine disruptors, or are these other sources like cosmetics or something? Like what do you think about when you think about hormone disruption?
Well, I think of a lot of different things. I mean, females, we know from quite rigorous data that women are more vulnerable to hormone disruption than men. And, even as recent as a year ago, there was a Harvard study looking at phthalate exposure, and women with the highest phthalate exposure had more problems getting pregnant. They also had more endometriosis. They had lesser egg quality based on some studies that were done with IVF. And so the way I think about endocrine disruptors, I mean, I think as broadly as possible because I feel like we are exposed to toxins on a daily basis, and detoxification is no longer a luxury. It's something that we all need to take on. So when it comes to foods, I think of those as endocrine disruptors as well, but I think um, the persistent organic pollutants are where we have the best data. But I think it extends far beyond just the pops.
Are you concerned about things like Roundup, the
Absolutely.
organophosphate weed killer that is just being used by millions of gallons? Okay, what does that do to hormones?
So it's interesting, this is another place where the data is not as robust as I would like it to be. I wish we had randomized trials of animals on Roundup versus not and, tracked for a really long time. I wish we had some human data, but I think the data is at a point where you don't want to do randomized trials in humans with Roundup. But the studies that have been done, there was a study from France looking at the effect of I believe it was in rodents, and they found that female rodents became more male. Basically, it raised testosterone levels, it lowered estradiol levels, and then the male rats became more female. It raised their estradiol levels and lowered their testosterone levels. So there's this reversal in sex hormones that I think is really important to pay attention to. We also know that farm workers who are exposed to Roundup have higher rates of miscarriage. They have more issues with infertility. And I think we have enough of a consensus to say, oh my gosh, don't eat GMO food.
Yeah, it's frightening because you get the direct hormone effects, And you also get the effects on the soil biome. And that soil biome is what affects your gut biome. So if you think you can separate your
I like how
body,
you carefully said it, Dave.
was I careful enough?
I still like butt biome. I'm going to use that somewhere.
I can't believe that was the best Freudian slip ever. Although I don't know if it was Freudian, it was just a slip. But anyway, if it was Freudian, I have deeper issues. So, um, so we tend to agree GMOs are a bad idea, and there's a direct problem with Roundup residue that's measurable on, say, GMO corn. But on top of that, the biome there is wrong, and it also does this thing. Corn, almost all of it, like 98% of it in the field, grows mold on it. The species Fusarium is the problem in corn, first and foremost. There are other ones. And Fusarium makes endocrine disrupting mycotoxins that are thousands of times stronger than normal female estrogen. So if that happens and the presence of Roundup stresses the fungus, which makes it make even more of its toxins, you're basically getting something that ought not to be food. Like I don't give my dogs GMO corn.
Right.
Or if I had chickens, I wouldn't give it to them either, but I don't have any chickens. I will, give me time.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, I think there's, when it comes to mycotoxins, I think this is a fascinating conversation. You and I have talked about coffee and mycotoxins. I think that's one of the reasons why cortisol levels go up in some of the older studies that we have on coffee. And you and I still need to do that study where we look
Yeah,
at Bulletproof and drink, compare it to some toxic coffee that has
I,
mycotoxins and look at our cortisol levels.
I can't wait to do that, Sarah, because I've done a study. I want to actually do a confirming study before I release it, but there's some people saying, there's no difference. So I'm probably going to release this study before I would prefer to. But it looks at just executive function, cognitive function on my coffee versus a selection of other coffees. And oh my goodness, the difference is so big. That study is the basis for a lot of the claims that I can legally make about, coffee for human performance. Like, no, it's real. But getting lab data, I mean, I would be interested in cortisol as well as other inflammatory things, because I suspect we'd find that some inflammatory markers go down. The problem is that as a coffee company, I'm not allowed to talk about what a food does to inflammation, because then the
Mm.
food would become a drug and we'd have to go through like $100 million of like clinical trials on coffee. So if coffee
Well, I can
has,
talk about it. So we'll have to
that's
do the
true.
study. We'll look at, what are your favorite inflammatory markers? You want to look at high sensitivity C-reactive protein, homocysteine. What else would you like to look at?
The
IGF-6
different
or
cytokines, right? Exactly. The
so
different ILs.
IL-6.
Yeah. I'd actually want to look. There's two of them that we know that different oils from coffee have an effect on from some studies. So I would want to recheck those studies and just look at, okay, like the studies believe it does that, so does it do that? But maybe that could be stacking the deck, because there's already science about it. It's just science that if I link to it, then I'm making claims. So anyone who wants to can search coffee inflammation and find, wow, there's some huge impacts here. And it turns out how you process the beans, how you roast them, and then even how you brew matters. So I don't want to turn this into a coffee thing. Everyone who listens to this started this. Let's pick your brain. Sorry, I'm going off on coffee.
Well,
Um,
it's, we're talking about some of these key hormones that
yeah,
really affect women. And I want everyone to listen to this particular piece because if you're a woman in your 20s or you're a guy in your 20s or your 30s, I don't want you to fall down a hormonal flight of stairs. And when you actually manage these hormones that we're talking about, like cortisol and what kind of coffee you drink, it's going to help you not fall down that hormonal flight of stairs. It's really important. So, I'm a big fan of building out a dashboard. To be honest, Dave, I'm gonna go like totally transparent here. I don't like the term biohack. I feel like it is so masculine. I need like a more feminine
oh,
term.
we
So,
have one. Biohackette. It totally works.
okay,
Sorry.
we're gonna dig a little deeper before the end of the show. But I think this piece is so important of, what are the metrics that you need to be watching? So if you're trying to get more lean, or if you're, trying to get along better with your spouse, or, get your woman
Yeah.
to have more sex with you, like these are really important metrics to be tracking. What do you
The,
think?
I could not agree more. And the whole idea of biohacking, it's funny. There are a bunch of women who have embraced it because it's empowering. And they're like, okay, I'm in charge. The the younger you get, the easier it is, because any popular media, like half the time, the hacker's the girl. Although if you go to a computer science program, it's still 80% males. And I don't know why that is. Probably the incidence of Asperger's in men versus women. But I say that as a guy who studied computer science, by the way. Uh,
I
so
was an engineer, Dave, but there's like a slight Rwanda quality to the term biohacker, and that's
Rwanda
the part.
quality.
Like I,
What does
there's
that
like
mean?
there's like a hacking quality to it that it
Oh,
feels a
Rwanda.
little violent.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. Like if you want to talk about like hack your skin, like well, that's what I go to a surgeon for, right? I hear you there. It's just a question of like co-opting. You're an engineer, so you know what a hacker does, and
Yeah.
it. But yeah, I get it. I couldn't find a better one, and the idea of like I'm a health enthusiast is so not feminine or masculine. It's just boring. Like I'm a wellness
True.
person. Like look at me, and Mr. Rogers is like my idol. It just doesn't work. So how do we, how do we tell people that? And I'm like, I'm taking charge. And honestly, I don't care if I'm not supposed to because that's what a hacker does. And I worked in computer security for half my career, so like that's where I come from. But if you come up with a better word for girl hackers, girl biohackers.
Well,
Um,
let's crowdsource it.
all
So if
right.
you're listening, give us some comments, give us some ideas on
Sure.
a more feminine term for biohacker, please. It would help move the cause,
Yeah.
empower more
We
women.
can have like meetups between biohackers and like biohack
Exactly.
girls or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. I like this, Dr. Sarah. So let's talk about women's brains since we're talking about
Cool.
biohacking.
Cool.
All right. What what do hormones do to the brain? Like kind of give people in their cars that rundown from your neurohormonal dashboard. What are the top
What are
five
the key
hormones that are
players?
going to
Yeah.
make you crazy or make you calm?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think about this, I'm an engineer, so I think of this in terms of modules, right? I think of the female brain according to age, and there's the pre-puberty, there's the pubertal age, there's the reproductive years, then, everything goes crazy in perimenopause, which is puberty in reverse, and then there's menopause, where you have just kind of a direct current instead of a alternating current. So I think about it in those modules, and I imagine, it's the reproductive years and maybe perimenopause that's of most interest to our listeners today. Although I have to tell you, I've got a 14-year-old daughter, and I am like, we got perimenopause right up next to puberty, and she's got estrogen just like firing her brain like crazy, and oxytocin. All she wants to do is go to the mall with her girlfriends, and all I want to do is wear my yoga pants, and I can't even remember if I brushed my hair today. So
So does
it's,
she listen to your podcasts?
okay, let me tell you, she listened to Abel James yesterday because she feels like he looks like Ryan Reynolds. So that was her reason for listening. So I'm going to have to get an angle. Maybe you can help me with this to make her listen to my podcast with you, Dave. So more on that. More will be revealed.
All right.
So when it comes to the brain, a couple of things that I think are important, especially during the reproductive years and also perimenopause and menopause. Women have half the serotonin that men have. And so this is a really key point because serotonin is a gatekeeper. It's not like all these happy brain chemicals like, BDNF and um, uh, dopamine. It's not like these are all created equal. Serotonin is like a really important gatekeeper. So we have half what men have, about 52%. I think it's part of the reason why we run into more problems around restricting carbohydrates. And we need to be really wise and smart about how we are biohacking our food and designing that food plan each day so that we are topping off the tank with serotonin and not with the latest antidepressant because oh by the way those are linked to a higher risk of breast cancer and ovarian cancer. That was shown in 2011. So serotonin's a really important piece. You want to be mindful of that. And estrogen, of course, is involved in the control of serotonin. So the way that we move serotonin around, the way that, there's kind of a threesome here. I always have the sexual, innuendos when I'm around you. I don't know why these come out of my mouth, but there's a threesome and it's, serotonin and estrogen and oxytocin. Like you want all three of those really working on your team and not working against you. GABA's in there too, and allopregnanolone, but I'm gonna go with the threesome for now.
Okay, got it.
So those are important. I mean, the other one that's really important for the female brain through reproductive years and also perimenopause is progesterone. Also important in menopause. And Progesterone is also, it's kind of like fiber. It's like the poor relation that nobody pays attention to. And we've got a lot of fascinating data on progesterone, especially, we know that when you have low progesterone, this is chapter 5 of my book, what happens is you're more likely to have heavy periods. They may come closer together. And the answer is not to go on the birth control pill. Believe me, that is not the answer. That shrinks your clitoris by 20%. It robs you of testosterone, and that is a serious problem. We got to talk about
Uh,
testosterone too.
yeah, so for guys, do you see why you might want to know about this? I have for the past 20 years, every woman that I've dated or whatever else, I'm like, get off the pill. And they're like, you want to get me pregnant? I'm like, no, I don't. Trust me on that. I just want you like healthy and normal. Do you talk about pheromones in the birth control pill in your book at all? Do you mention that study?
I should. I don't talk about it in the book. We'll have to. Maybe we could link to it with our podcast.
Okay, we'll link to it. The really short version of that for guys and women to understand is that if you're on the pill, it changes your smell receptors so that your partner's pheromones smell good to you. When you go off the pill, when you decide to have kids, you may be sexually unattracted to your partner because their pheromones smell different to you now. And that's a bad thing. Like, you just maybe got married, like you're going off to start a family, you're like, ew, that guy's gross. So this is one reason, like, while you're dating, you might not want to be on the pill, other than that little breast cancer thing. But anyway, we don't have to go down that path.
Well, I do want to go down the path. Can
Okay.
we do a tangent on testosterone? Because
Yeah, let's do testosterone. It's awesome.
oh my gosh, I love this point you made. We're always trying to figure out, okay, what is it with mating in captivity? Why is it that sex becomes less interesting for so many of us after you've been married for a while? So I
Did you
love
just
it.
equate marriage with captivity?
Yeah,
Okay. All right,
Marriage
go
in
ahead.
Captivity. It's a book by Esther Perel. But
Okay.
so this, finding these reasons like pheromones. I don't know any women who didn't go on the birth control pill. I mean, maybe there's a few here in Berkeley, but
Yeah.
most of us did not escape. And I wanted to say, there's a great way to think about your testosterone receptor. I'm hoping we can talk about molecular sex here for a moment,
All right.
because really when it comes to hormones, it all comes down to molecular sex. Are you having good sex or bad sex? And the sex, of course, is between the hormone and the receptor. So with testosterone, when you go on the birth control pill, it's not just this problem with the pheromones and the increased risk of breast cancer. It's also that it reduces your free testosterone dramatically. So I flippantly said it can shrink your clitoris up to 20%. But even more concerning to me is that 20 to 25% of women on the pill have vaginal dryness. And they're all of 22, 25 years old, and they're like, why do I have this dry vagina? And they're not asking their doctors about it because they're embarrassed, and then they don't want to have sex because it hurts. And the problem there, if you look at the receptors, is that some of us have what Andrew Goldstein, I love his analogy here, we have the Prius receptor. We have like the super efficient androgen receptor where we can go really far on a low tank of testosterone gas. And then the rest of us have the Hummer receptor for androgens. And when your testosterone's low, you just can't go very far. And so you have vaginal dryness, maybe even pain. I feel like the birth control pill is the largest endocrinopathy that we are imposing on women in the world. I feel like I'm getting on the soapbox. So that's my little thing on testosterone.
It's it's really important that you say that. We did the same thing in the Better Baby book. We're like, look, the pill is not good for women. It is bad for all these different reasons. And if you want to have children later, it's not in your best interest to do this. I know it's convenient. Like, we're fans of, women's liberation and, rights of women. That said, denying your biology isn't going to make you live a long time and is going to make you have a healthier family or have a healthier sex life. But
so I'm going to give you a fist bump for that one.
Fist bump it is.
There we go.
Now, there's two other things, though, you said, though, around testosterone and vaginal dryness. Okay, guys, you can hack your partner's vagina. Did you pick this up? Okay.
See, the use of hack in the same
I knew
sentence
that
as
would bother you.
vagina.
But seriously, okay, you can modify your vaginal receptors. No, that is even worse. So here's the deal. By encouraging healthy behaviors, you can basically improve the health and quality of your partner. See, this is all just too medical for me, but here's the deal. You can improve your sex life by improving your partner's health. Now, there's another thing. I don't know if you've ever tried this. I'm guessing probably. Have you ever tried topical application of very low doses of testosterone directly to the clitoris?
Oh, hell yes. In fact,
This is like the unknown biohack, and it's amazing.
I have my vulva right here. Hold on.
Okay, you all want to turn on your video now. Oh my god, you have to see this on iTunes or on YouTube. Okay, you're holding a giant vagina.
Okay, it's
Puppet.
a velvet vulva. It's not my vulva. It's a vulva of color. And there's the clitoris. So yes, a lot of women think, especially in perimenopause, when they start to get dry, they think they need to start frosting themselves with estrogen. But it turns out your androgens are way more important. So you are right. The testosterone, you got to be careful. You don't want to have clitoromegaly where you start to grow a penis.
Yeah.
But yeah, putting it on, especially where you have the androgen receptors on the clitoris. Can you see that, Dave?
Oh,
The labia
totally.
minora.
It's a great big clitoris.
It's a great, you can't miss it. And there's the G spot. See the ruffly pink stuff? Don't forget the G spot. And then right here, the opening, the introitus, that's where you have a ton of androgen receptors kind of based on embryology. So that's where you got to put it. You don't want to, and DHEA, there's some new interesting data on DHEA.
Topically?
Yes, and that
Ah.
it helps the full thickness of the vagina, not just the surface like estrogen does. So, oh my gosh, so many, clinical pearls today. They're just like dripping out of us today.
You and your innuendos, good God. So you are the first in more than 100 shows, the first person to actively show a vagina on the air. So congratulations, Sarah Gottfried.
Thank you. I'm happy to have that position.
What is interesting is that if you take a low dose testosterone cream, a very tiny amount of it, and you apply it topically, you get a very sudden effect, right? Are you familiar with that effect?
I want you to say more. Of course, I want to see the data, but
Okay.
I think this is actually where we're going. I think you're talking about where we're going, where we're talking about like very small doses of bioidentical hormones and how to use them strategically. So I wanted to call that out. But please
this would be more along the lines of female Viagra. You take like basically the stuff that I use as a it's a 5% in a cream base, and you take a vanishingly small amount. Like if I applied it on my armpit, normally what would be left on my finger is enough, and you swipe it over the labia and the clitoris. And within 5 minutes, you get amazing amounts of blood flow, huge amounts of blood flow, like nothing you've ever seen. And it's repeatable, and it completely changes like the whole like sexual response. And it's different than raising testosterone in the body, say through supplementation or diet or exercise, or even applying it, on an armpit where you use armpits because it absorbs well there. But if you put it on a woman there, sex drive goes up. But if you put it topically on the vagina, immediate a reckless abandoned desire for sex goes up a lot more. So you can use less testosterone and get a bigger benefit. So guys, you shouldn't do this without her permission, but it is an amazing result.
Well, I have to be a little bit careful about medical advice when it comes to testosterone, especially your testosterone being applied to a female. So you got to be cautious about that. Work with your physician.
Of course.
And
you can't get it without a physician.
And I'm thinking of 1/3 of the U.S. public, the females, have polycystic ovarian syndrome. And so we have to be a little bit careful about testosterone balance. But I appreciate the point that you're making. I think most of us are in short supply of testosterone in our lady garden.
Yeah. And I'm not saying do it every day, for God's sake, especially. And I'm just saying that this is a relatively unknown effect of testosterone in that region. And especially if a woman is deficient, that might be a great way to apply it. There, I said that as politely as I could.
That was good, Dave. It's kind of like you talking about coffee. So I was talking about progesterone in the brain.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's a little hard to like follow the testosterone clitoris conversation with progesterone on the brain. But we give progesterone now to people who have had traumatic brain injury. Yeah. Women need it. Like it really helps us. Men need it too, and you need it to have this really good dance with your estrogen. So
even in pregnancy. Like there's the progesterone baby studies that we covered in the Better Baby book, where we look at intelligence of kids who had extra progesterone in the womb. And the studies, there's been some questions about them because they're done in the 60s, but the studies were kind of amazing in the effects that that came out. So it's not just for women. It's not even just for women and men. It's for like babies too. Anyway, go ahead.
Totally. Yeah, and there's all these new studies, not from the 1960s, showing that it reduces preterm labor. In fact, there
Oh,
was a study I just looked at about a month ago showing that women who have the lowest progesterone levels, we know that they have a higher rate of miscarriage, they have a higher rate of other problems in their pregnancy, and now we know that they have a higher rate of preterm labor. So progesterone is really important. I'm not saying, start frosting yourself in progesterone cream, but we want to that should be one of the items on your dashboard as you're managing your cortisol, your estrogen, your growth hormone, your thyroid, your testosterone.
that's so cool. And to do this, you should work with a doctor. You can get your numbers and bring them to your doctor if you want using like a Wellness FX panel. But your doctor probably works with a specific lab and is familiar with the way they do their numbers and how they do their own quality control. So it's best if you're going to work with a doctor to go to the doctor and say, I'm interested in optimizing these levels, help. And you want to make sure the doctor gets it, which means what IFM, what other things should people look for in a doctor since you're not practicing, Dr. Sarah?
Yeah, well, I work with people online. So
Okay, you do.
you can check me out at
Oh,
sarahgottfriedmd.com.
I didn't know you
And
were still doing that. That's okay. We'll put links to that and everything. Cool.
awesome. Yeah, so I work with folks online. I also have been training practitioners. So yes, you could go to functionalmedicine.org, go see a functional medicine practitioner. I'm joining the faculty at IFM, the Institute
Okay.
for Functional Medicine, so I'm a big fan. I recommend in my book that you check out some of the scripts that I have for checking out doctors and sort of seeing if they are collaborative, if they're going to partner with you the way that you deserve. I also think that it's important to realize that there's this problem with mainstream medicine. I think you've noticed this, Dave, where many folks just are, it's as if they don't think that adrenal dysregulation exists, or
Yeah.
they think that there's something wrong with people getting empowered and testing their own labs and taking ownership of their health. They don't want, the patriarchal system doesn't want for us to step into our power fully. So there's some folks who are resistant to this, and you want to not see those people.
Exactly. And I want to be conscious of your calendar and your schedule here. We have one more question that I've asked every guest that I'm hoping that you have time to run through. And that is your top 3 recommendations for people, men or women, who want to kick more ass.
Okay, I love this. I love this. So I'm going to give you, what is top of the heap for me right now, because I'm
Mhm.
always taking on new stuff. Number one, chi running. Oh my gosh, I'm so into chi running. It's like backdoor spirituality. I always love these ways of finding your secret sauce, which is really, being able to rebalance your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight, rest and digest. So chi running, totally love it,
What
totally love
is
it.
chi running?
So chi running is where you basically combine qi gong and kind of these principles of retraining the mind
Hmm.
with running.
Oh, okay, so it's kind of
You
like a walking meditation, but you're running.
kind of, yeah, you're
Okay.
engaging your dantian. Next time I see you, Dave, we'll go chi running,
All
okay?
right, I'm excited. I'm going to get my Dantian all warmed up.
So number two, I'm totally grooving on my morning bulletproof coffee. And guys, Dave hasn't paid me to say this. Like he makes me pay retail for all of my coffee and everything. So, there's like no bias here. So I am loving my bulletproof coffee with my MCT oil and my
Thank you.
collagen in the morning. I just think it's totally cool. I need to study it more. I'm collecting the data, more on that later. And then number three, I'm going to have to say oxytocin. So I feel like oxytocin, we're just at the tip of the iceberg in terms of understanding about how oxytocin's involved in connection. I mean, it's really the best hormone therapy out there. Oxytocin, it lowers your cortisol, it raises your estradiol, it helps you make your thyroid work more efficiently. So I love oxytocin. There's so
As
many ways
a
to get it.
drug or orgasms, or like what's your top way to get it?
Well, I do have the vulva here, so definitely female orgasm.
Stop waving your vagina on camera. Sorry, I've always wanted to say that on a podcast.
we might have to like, say this is for mature audiences only.
I think it's okay. This is educational. They're
Yeah.
going to be playing this in your daughter's class.
Well, I did bring this to the 8th grade class. They loved it.
Good for you. I love that too.
But you can also hug, right? Like you
Yeah.
can keep your pants on, and 8 hugs a day is what Paul Zak says based on the half-life of oxytocin. You need 8
Okay.
hugs a day.
All right. So more hugging. I can do that. Dr. Sarah Gottfried, give us your URL, give us the title of your book where people can order it and things like that so they can find you. We'll put all these links in the show notes, but just make sure people can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So the book is The Hormone Cure, and you can find it at thehormoneCureBook.com. That's the best place to go. We've got a free offer right now where you get this 39-page special report on how to rebalance your
Mm-hmm.
hormones in 8 steps.
Awesome. Thanks again, Dr. Sarah Gottfried, for being on Bulletproof Executive Radio, the #1 ranked health podcast on iTunes right now. Woohoo! Talk to
Woo!
you again soon, and we'll go chi running.
Thanks, Dave. Absolutely. Bye, everybody.
One of my favorite sources of protein is upgraded collagen protein. This is a pre-digested form of collagen that comes from grass-fed cows. Collagen is a connective protein. In fact, it's one of the more common proteins in your body. It forms the matrix that your bones grow on. It forms the connective tissue for your skin and your hair and your nails. See the head of foam that's formed on it? This is similar to what you get with a latte. There are actually little bubbles still coming to the surface, just like a freshly steamed latte, but the flavor is something that you wouldn't expect. It is creamier and more delicious than a latte ever has a chance of being.